Assalamualaikum and very good day to all my students. So we continue our lecture session on graphical user interface chapter 9. So previous video we learned about to design our user interface. So we add the JFrame, we add the controls such as label, radio buttons, text fields and the buttons. So I'm going to show you the codes of all of these designs. So we just select source tab. So inside the source tab, you will see that there is a class. The class name is the input form. So the class name is similar to the name of your Java file. Okay, and this class input form will extend JFrame's class. Okay. So there are few methods that we need to take note in uh, in this course. I mean that in this topic. So the first one is your constructor, which your constructor is input form, and then the main method. Okay. So basically, you will see that basically the default method that been given by the compiler is this constructor and then a main method. Okay, so let me clear any label. Okay, I just clear the label here, so I want to make it look clean. So okay, the first thing that you need to make sure is that there is a portion whereby that in the compiler will color it in a gray. So you see that inside the variable declarations, right? Do not modify, all in the gray color, in gray box here. So you can't change this. So this actually is a age label, age text, a button group one, department label is referred to the object that we name it in our uh, design just now. So this input label, start radio button, student radio button will be become a data member to the class of input form. Okay, so we notice that this is in green color, right? And then you have access modifier private, and you have here Java X swing JLabel. This one actually the data type, for the data member H label. So data type for the data member H label is JLabel. Data type for uh, data member H text field is a J text field. So remember the data member, right? You see that is in NetBeans will be colored in a green color. Okay, so this one you can't modify. You see that do not modify, or maybe you can modify it. I can't change it here. You can't modify in the source. So this is you need to notice it. So where you can modify it, them you need to delete them from the design. Okay, you can change it. This name or code name here, name label, you name it as, let's say I name it as name one, right? I say name one. So you notice that this name one, when I go to the source, you will notice that uh, the name label became a name one label. So we change it at the design phase here. So I change it back again to name, right? So when I go back to this, you see that it changed to name. So you can't change it at the source tab. Okay. All right. The important method that you need to know is that the constructor of the class. So this is the input form constructor, and inside the input form constructor, it's been given one calling method called init components. Okay. So init components is a method that been defined also inside this class input form. Okay. Where is it? So you go to this generated code. Okay. I'm drop that that plus just now. So actually this is been defined by compiler. So it's a init component method, and this is the definition of init component. You see that a lot of code, right? Whereby that this init component will compiler start to read that init component because you call it from the compiler, from the constructor, and it will create an object of button group one. You know that when we're creating the object, you use new as a new operator, and the constructor of the class, let's say the button group class, right? So you have a button group with a parenthesis. So this creating an object, some kind of a composition relationship between this object, all of this object, button one, panel, input label, stuff radio button, to the frames. It become an composition relationship. Okay, and what this does is that it set the border, it set the font. I did change the fonts. Okay, it set the text, and this is setter, set text, set font, right? So all of this, you no need to modify it inside the init component, because you see that this all are editable. You can't modify them. Okay, so if you need to modify them, go to design and modify it. You want to change it, let's say for the input label, the font size, you need to change it. Let's say just now the font size for the input label is Tahoma 24 box. If I want to see it inside here, I go to the input label, right? So the input label I'll see here, input label that set font is Tahoma 124. Means that the compiler use a setter set font to change the font size and the font name. Okay, you want to change them, do not change it here. You can't change it, you change it at these properties. If I, let's say I'm change it to let's say size of maybe this font. Okay, so I go to source. You see that it's going to change it to send empty. All right, so all of this been created by compiler. Okay, you no need to uh, do modification on this init component, so leave it there. But this one, do not delete. Do not delete this calling method init component, because when we run this class input form, so the compiler will check the main method. Okay, it call the input form. Okay, and then it's set to visible, mean that it show in your screen. Set visible mean that it show you on the screen because it's true. And then it will goes inside the init component, do all of this thing, and you will see that your UI will be pop up or display on your screens. Okay, this is very important. Okay, then uh, we're going to do the coding. And we enter the input in at the end name, age, and department, and click to the submit. Okay, so before that, I'm going to create a class for the staff and student, because what I'm going to do is that all these informations data, I'm going to add it into an object for the staff and object for the student. Okay, so I need to create a class for the staff. So I'm creating a staff class. So this is a similar that we did previously. So just add the stuff. Let's say that private string name. Right. Let me check again. So maybe okay. Let me do this first, and then private int h, and then I'm creating private string department. Okay, so I'm just creating the setter and getter for all of them. So I have a getter and setter, and then I'm creating another class, normal class for the student. Okay, student also will have the same information because inside here we have the same information as well, name, age, and department, right? So you can have same data members inside the student, okay, right? Or what we can do is that we create one method or one class that show common data members that can be inherited by a student and the staff. So you know that name and age also can have in staff, right? Name and age also in staff, but staff has department and then student has a program because student will be assigned to their course or program. Maybe you are in software engineering, the student maybe in from network or from JMM. So the difference is in terms of program only. So maybe both name and age data member we can assign it to one superclass. We create one superclass called person. Okay, just create a person. So you can pro- give this class person as an abstract as well. It's no problem. So let me copy or paste or delete okay, this one to the person, right? And then I'm doing the refactor, all of them. Wait, let me change the properties or modifier for the data member. Currently is private. If you see the private, so I'm changing to protected. And for the assessor and getter will be a public. So you see protected and this also public. So then, of course, the staff name, the I mean that because we already delete the name and the age right inside the staff, so we no need to use them because later we're going to perform an inheritance or generalization relationship between staff and person. So I'm extend. Oh, all right. Again, I'm extending to the person. So actually, staff we going to have three data members, okay, a name, age, and department, as well as getter and setters for name and age, right? So let me save it. Okay, go to student and delete this for the student. Then let me do the setter and getter for the program. So this one should be private. So yeah, I already have a person class, staff class, and student class. So right now, student haven't extends to the person. I do extend them. So later, student also can have name and age as well as set name, set age, get name, get age in the student class implicitly. Okay, you can't see them. All right, I have this person, staff, and student. So what I'm going to do is that uh, when I'm selecting this staff radio buttons and I enter uh, the value for the name, age, and department. So the event would be triggered is based on the submit. Mean that when I'm click submit, the data should be saved into the object of the student. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a data member inside the input form class. The data member whereby that we are going to implement this what we call it as a association relationship or maybe aggregation or composition. Let us do declaration of staff object. So I just use this as my staff, and then this is for student. My student. Let me name it as this one, my staff and my student. Okay, you have my staff and my student. Then maybe you can have it as a composition. So if a composition, I'm going to create an object for my stuff. Okay, new my new my stuff lah. So like this, right? So uh actually, okay, we also can have something like parent class reference to child object, the concept of polymorphism. Instead of stuff, we can name it as a person, something like this lah. Persons as the parent class reference, because this my stuff actually is a object for the stuff, right? Because we call the constructor for the stuff, but only it refer to the persons, because the person right now is a superclass. Staff is a staff and student is a subclass to the person, so we can refer to the person. That's why I can have uh, a person become a data type for my staff and my student. So I'm doing also creating an object from student. Let me write the correct one. So this object for the student, because we call it the microconstructor of the student. All right. I'm just creating this object because I want to have later, because I want to get the value, okay, from this text fields. Okay. Right. So right now, if you run this coding, okay, you won't have anything, lah. So let's say we just enter stuff maybe 26. Wow. Wow. Let me delete them. Then department, let's say CS. Then I click submit. So nothing happened, right? So because we did not yet program the event at the submit button. All right. So let me stop this video. We continue with event programming at the submit button. Thank you.